Welcome back to another of our podcasts with joint cooperation between IPMA and Netherlands. In fact, this is part of PMI's PM Untold program. This podcast series has been all about project steering committees, otherwise known as steercos, project boards, project steering committees, and more. But the main point is to really understand how these steering committees make a difference in project success. I'm joined by Jaap Stoppels, who's actually doing his doctorate in this area, right?
Yeah, actually, at Delft University in the Netherlands.
So this is the fifth of the series, but not the end of your work, right?
No, it probably will take a few more years.
Right.
I only do it part-time.
Right. And if you want to know more about this, don't forget to subscribe, because we've got 5 great series put together now all around this topic. 5 great programs you're not going to want to miss. Now, what's our last series all about? Competencies. It's so important to have the right stuff because, you know, being on a board is more than just the glory of having that job. It's about being able to make decisions, be a part of a project team, and make sure it's successful. So how do we start? Well, let's start with the most obvious answer, a question. What degree of member characteristics are considered during the selection process?
Well, what typically happens, when I look at the formation of a steering committee, typically there are 2 options. One, there could be a contract behind the project, which determine most of the members. So let's say there are 5 parties involved, they will each pay part of it, then they will probably deliver a director. A second option is that somebody, a senior person, could be the future project owner, could be the project manager, often it's a project manager, which is strange, then said, okay, these are the characteristics of the project. It will impact this and this organizations, departments. It has this amount of money involved, so we need this kind of level, like the top level or a bit lower. And then they will say, okay, so it involves operations, it's about a lot of money, so we need the director of operations. Mm-hmm. So in most cases, the characteristics like competences, the interest in the project and so on of the members are not considered when they are asked to become a member. There are some exceptions. In my own experience, for example, it was an HR project with IT and processes and so on, payrolling. For a big organization, they had 4 big divisions, and then we could choose from which division do we take an HR director to ask this person if he or she wants to be in a steering committee, and then we could choose a little bit based on the competences, the network they have, the interest in the project. But that's more the example, the exemption, than what happens for most projects.
Right. You might get people who've already done board work before and so understand some of the competencies, and the others they might have no idea how to play that role and what kind of skills are needed.
A lot of examples of both.
Yeah. So that really begs the question, what's a vital characteristic to this kind of role?
Yeah. You see, often they miss characteristics. But what they should have is at least some understanding about the project. Well, actually not about the project, the product you will be going to deliver. Mm-hmm. That's important. So let's say in IT they don't have to be able to program or whatever, or even know the type of IT architecture. But if you have no understanding at all of the final product and what it means for the people, then you already have an issue. A second one is people often need to have a network because, like we said in one of the previous podcasts, decision making is often also based on the authority you have in the permanent organization. That can be a formal authority, which is also a criterion, but could also be like having a network that if there will be big issues, let's say in a civil engineering project in public works, that you can call somebody who is important with some other network and, oh yeah, I know you from before, we have an issue, can we discuss this? And another one, there's sort of standard management competencies, because you also have to do some management tasks, make decisions and so on.
Yeah, so that would be things like analytic skills, problem-solving skills, the ability to ask the right questions, for instance, if you don't know deeply the technology, for instance. You need some business acumen also, right? Because generally projects are running to create some kind of solution that creates either a positive outcome, a reduction of costs, an increase in ROI, or something else. And so understanding how that works, what those numbers should be, and how the economics of that work would be part of almost any project. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but it's not always the case the other way around. Recently, I've done a presentation with a group of about 40, mainly project managers, and then I asked them, is a good manager also always a good steering committee member? And most of them said no. What we did with some cards, a red one and another color. Most said no. Why is that? Because they also have to show some interest in the project, know a little bit about the characteristics of doing a project, not too much, because they shouldn't take over the job of the project manager, but a little bit. And also, like I said, something about the product. Myself, I have a lot of experience in ERP implementations. Those are big software packages which also change the business processes and the other way around. But for most of the project steering committee members, they do it one or twice in their life. And it's not the same as being a good manager, that really helps, but also to have a little bit of idea about what business processes are there, what happens if business processes change, and what are the kind of characteristics of the software packages. Because you can change a lot, but if you change a lot, maintenance is more expensive.
That's true.
And also the willingness to look a little bit into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the most important characteristics of the Stuurco itself, these board members and them acting as a group? What characteristics do you think are important?
Yeah, I think that's also being in a management team. So a degree of trust, like we discussed before, a degree of shared goals, working for responsibilities, also being able to make decisions on management level, so not take over the work of a project manager. What also is a good idea if you are a project manager and you find that some of the steering committee members really lack those characteristics, in most of the cases you can't replace them, even if the project owner agrees with you. But what I see then is that people will have one meeting, so you can try if this person wants to get coached a bit, or like with decision making, perhaps there is a trusted advisor you can use, or perhaps there is another steering committee members who can compensate part of the lacking competences. But yeah, I've also seen examples also in my own life that you really conclude, hopefully together, that this person is not ideal for this steering committee position, because, for example, he or she does not have enough time, or often don't want to spend enough time.
Yeah, so I notice you never really are talking in this series so far about the concept of governance, and why are you avoiding that particular concept?
Yeah, good one. Like we said before, if you look at the steering committee, it can be important for governance and it can be important for support. And often in project plans and so on, I see we have the governing bodies, and that's the steering committee, which is correct. But if you say to a steering committee member, you are here to govern the project, then people might think I'm mainly here to make a decision. So there will be, the project manager will prepare something with 3 options, perhaps advice to do option B or something like that. I decide for B and I go home. No, that's not enough. Like when you are in a top management team, you also have to do something. You have to do some processing of information, like we discussed in one of our sessions before. But you also have to do something to make sure that people follow the decision. Because sometimes it's easy that the project management can do that, let's say for a scope decision. But like in this ERP kind of implementation, it's always about business change. And then you have to go to your department and say, okay, this is going to change, this will happen, this will mean this and this for you. Lower level managers, you have to support this, even if you might not agree with it.
Absolutely. I just had an interview with Ger, a senior manager for a long time. And one of the things he said about steering committees is They need to have skin in the game to the
Yeah.
point where there's consequences for both success and failure.
Yeah.
And that's really about what you're talking about right now, right? It's not just shooting a dart at the wall and saying, okay, that sounds like a good idea, and then I never have to worry about it again. No, you've got to sell the idea. You've got to work to make it successful. You've got to pull all the political strings behind the scenes to make it
Yeah.
really take action.
Yeah, what also I asked a lot of people, does the steering committee really make a difference? And in most cases, especially project managers said, yes, there was always a time in the project where you really needed those senior managers to work together to achieve the goal of the project. So yeah, I agree with that one, and they also need to have skin in the game. They might have to take some risk for the personal career. They can gain something, like you said, they are in the committee just to shine, yeah, but it's also a risk because you might have to champion a decision which might not be your decision or might be not only good for your department.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, that really shows that the importance of having the right stuff with your steering committee is a make or break moment, right?
Yeah. So like somebody said, the fish rots from the head.
There you go.
Yeah, that's of course the negative part, but it could also be positive that they really make a difference. One of the researchers calls that an engaged steering committee.
I like that. I'm really looking forward to hear how the rest of your research goes and how your thesis turns out. But these five podcasts have really shined a light on the deep thinking you've been doing and the research you've been doing behind that concept of a steering committee, a board, a project board. And I feel like there's some key takeaways you want to leave us with. So can you just tell us in summary what we're going to find out by looking at all 5 of these programs you've created?
Well, first, why a steering committee? It could be useful for governance, to reduce the risk for the owning or the funding organization. It could be useful for support towards the project, especially when there are big conflicts of interest. If you look at the formation, often people are selected based on their function in a permanent organization. They might know each other, they might not know each other. So you need to have a kind of starting process like you would do with all temporary teams. Decision making is really important. Make decisions about the process of decision making at the start of the committee when you're really working together or starting to make all kind of processes, not when there is a big issue. Do it before. Be clear about the individual roles and responsibilities of the members, not just some general role, I'm senior user or I'm here because I'm from this department. No, why are you here? What are you going to do? For what topic can I hold you to account, and for what topic can't I hold you to account? And the last one, a lot of steering committee members might be good managers, sometimes not perhaps, but even that doesn't mean they are good steering committee members. It's also a job they have to learn. Some might know it, some might not have the skills to do that or the network or the time they want to spend. But as other members, as a project owner, as a project manager, often you have to deal with that.
I really like this program because, Jaap, you've provided at least one great takeaway from every one of these series. Please, if you want to know more about steering committees, check out the rest of the series, and you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you found value in this, please give it a like if that's available on your subscribing service, and also share it with a friend. You know, we need to get this information out there so we can all be more successful. I'd like to thank you again, and thank all of you for listening, and we'll see you next time on IPMA and PMI Untold.